Hi, Algebra. Happy Monday. This is Hank. Had we been together in the classroom, he would have been one of the class pets we have. He's one of my leopard geckos, and he's 8 years old. What you guys are going to be working on today is a continuation of what we talked about on Friday, which was writing expressions. If you look into the resources tab, you'll notice that one of the assignments is writing expressions. Everybody should do that one. The first page is working through an example problem, and I worked through it talking over the problem to make sure that you understood it. The practice problem says that you are buying materials for a school project and you buy 6 feet of total materials. It also gives you unit size and price for the two materials you're buying, plywood and acrylic. And then it asks you to write an equation to solve for the price using the variable p to define plywood. It also tells you that 32 square feet of plywood equal $15, and that 12 square feet of acrylic equals $43. So the first thing we're going to want to do with this problem is figure out the price of 1 square foot of each of the material. If we want 1 square foot, we can divide this by 32 and this side by 32. So $15 divided by 32 equals 0.47 per square foot. And this is the cost of plywood. You can do the same steps with acrylic, so it's going to be 43 divided by 12. And that gives you the price per square foot of acrylic, which is $3.58 per square foot of acrylic. So let's figure out how we can write the amount of material we're using the variable p. The total amount of material we're using is going to equal plywood, p, plus acrylic. And the problem tells us that the total amount of material we're using is going to be 6 feet squared. If we wanted to figure out how much acrylic we're going to use, we could move p over to this side. So total of 6 feet of materials minus the amount of plywood we use is going to give us the amount of acrylic that we use. So anywhere where we would put acrylic into the equation we want to write, we could instead use this value. Total materials minus the amount of plywood we use. Let's figure out how to write cost of each material into this equation. We know our overall cost is going to equal the amount of plywood we use times how much plywood is, which is 0.47, plus the amount of acrylic we use. Remember, we can use this value for acrylic. So 6 minus p times the cost of each square foot of acrylic, which is 3.58. So the next step to solve this is going to be to distribute our numbers. So we're going to end up with cost equals 0.47p plus 21.48 minus 3.58p. The next thing we're going to do is combine like terms, bringing our p values together. So it's going to be cost equals 21.48 minus 3.11p.
We can't simplify that any further, so that would be the equation we use to represent the cost of materials. The second part says, give the cost if we used 2 feet of plywood. So what you would do to solve that part is you would plug 2 in for this value, 21.48 minus 3.11 times 2, which gives you 21.48 minus 6.22. And when you solve that out, you should get a total cost of $15.26.
The first part, where there are boxes for you to fill in, should be fairly similar to the first problem you worked through. So follow similar steps and work through that. Question number 1 asks you to simplify an algebraic expression, and I also worked through that problem to help you get started.
So when you get a problem like this, the first thing I would do is simplify where you can. So in this case, we have a 3 outside of the parentheses, so we're going to distribute that by multiplying 3 times x and 3 times plus 2. The next thing I would do is combine like terms. So in this case, I would start with terms that have an x in them. So 3x and 4x are going to make 7x, and then plus 6 minus 7, when you combine them, give you minus 1. You can't simplify that any further, so that's the answer to number 1.
I would also like everyone in the class to work through a second assignment, and it is up to you to figure out which one of the additional assignments you would like to work through. If you found simplifying expressions kind of challenging and difficult, I suggest you work on the one that says reteach. If you are confident in the work that you did in the first part, start on the one that says challenge. I'm not going to grade these whether they're correct or not, but whether they're complete and whether you attempted it. So do what you can. I'll see you in our Zoom meeting tomorrow.